Welcome back to another episode of Front Row Cinema, a movie podcast for movie lovers by movie lovers. I am your host, TJ Trimboli, and with me, as always, my co-host. We've got the spirit guide in the house tonight. We got Mr. James O'Reilly.
What do you think my totem would be? Like, what do I
Oh,
need to do to become a man?
that's a good question. I'd say you remind me very much of the eldest brother. I could see you in an eagle totem.
I'm the eagle guide.
I could
I don't
see
know.
I could
That
see
sounds
you
like
as
a
a
lot of
guide.
pressure.
You've you've led me to wisdom many times throughout our friendship together. I could see you as an eagle totem.
Yeah, but could I turn you into a bear when I really needed to? That's a lot of commitment.
It is. I don't know. I guess we'll have to see if any situations arise in the near future that would necessitate me becoming a bear. And since I'm not
Okay.
gay, I don't see that happeing. And
Well, I
each
didn't,
week,
okay, buddy. That was in your head, all right? I didn't bring that up, man.
and each week we take a look at my 1,000 movies I've seen in theaters, and we see how well it's aged, along with the hype surrounding the film, its box office analysis, and legacy in the film industry. So if you enjoy this kind of content, hit that sub button on YouTube, leave that 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. It's how you help the channel grow. Jim, what are we watching tonight?
We're watching the kind of forgotten Joaquin Phoenix classic, Brother Bear.
Yeah, that's right. The 2003 animated film, directed by Aaron Blaise and Robert Walker, written by, this is insane to me, Jim. We've got 5 screenwriters for this bad boy. We got Tab Murphy, Lauren Cameron, David Hasselton, Steve Benchich, and Ron J. Friedman. And starring, as you said, Joaquin Phoenix, which might be one of the most insane castings I think I've seen in a movie thus far. What do you think about that?
It's pretty wild. It feels though like how many lines did he have really? You know what I mean? Like it feels like he could have just knocked this out in a week and moved
Oh.
on with his life. You know what I mean?
You could definitely see that. It seems insane casting because we're in what 2003 at this point.
Yeah, I
Like
mean, we've already done
he's
at
done
least two
Gladiator
Joaquin Phoenix movies. We did Gladiator and then Signs, right?
and Signs, yeah. So it's then insane that they were like, all right, we got this story about 3 Native American brothers. Who should play one of them? What's Joaquin Phoenix doing right now? It's like, what?
Yeah.
That feels way off the mark. Like,
Yeah, and I'm trying to think is there any other in Disney movies around this time, like somebody who's that big of a name? And then is maybe the thing that Joaquin Phoenix isn't quite as big of a name as we think of him as now. Like he's been in some big things up to this point, but I don't know. It seems maybe it's more feasible in 2003 than it would be in 2024. I don't know. What do you think?
but no, I think it would definitely be more feasible in 2003 than now. It just seems so like he just doesn't seem like the type of actor that I would picture would come and do a Disney animated movie. I mean, maybe back then he's still circling around trying to cut his teeth more, even though he's been in Gladiator and been in Signs. He's still just trying to get some good work out there. But it does seem like insane to think that there's a world that we live in where Joaquin Phoenix was, yeah, I'll be in a Disney movie. It just seems weird. Like it doesn't seem like
Yeah,
those two would gel together whatsoever.
yeah, agreed. Because he usually plays way more serious, dramatic roles, you know?
In the same way that you see like there's a bunch of actors that don't touch like the MCU. Like I Joaquin just seems someone that would be like, I'd never you won't ever see him in an animated Disney movie. And yet here we are.
And here we are.
Here we are. Did you know he was in it before you watched it
No, I
for
didn't
this?
know it till after. And the only reason, I mean, I looked up the IMDb after, but the whole movie, I was like, who is that? Like, I know who that is. Who is that?
Yeah,
And I couldn't put a finger on it.
I didn't look it up either. And as I'm watching it, I'm like, that's definitely somebody I recognize. And then pulled it up and was like, absolutely no fucking way. That's Joaquin Phoenix. Like, in what world did you do this, Disney?
Yeah, pretty wild.
Pretty wild. Now we got our DVD cover, of course. We turn our attention back to the lovely log line we got on the back, and it reads: When an impulsive boy named Kenai is magically transformed into a bear, he must literally walk in another's footsteps until he learns some valuable life lessons. Beautiful. Love it. Nice, short and sweet, to the point. Excellent work, DVD cover.
Yeah, I like that he must literally walk.
Yeah. They're not taking any spiritually about this. They're going literally, not metaphorically, right in your face. Was this
Yeah,
a first time watch for you?
yeah. I honestly like. I must have seen like the TV commercials for it when it came
Yeah.
out. But it's like blowing my mind that this came out the same year as Finding Nemo, and like couldn't. If you had asked me to name all the Disney movies, I never in a million years would have gotten this. I didn't even know it existed.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, well, I imagine, especially with the cultural stamp that Finding Nemo was putting uh on its cultural footprint in 2003, Brother Bear kind of gets left in the dust. At that point, I don't think anyone they're like, we're in on Finding Nemo. We don't care about any other animated movie that's coming out this year. Like, sorry, Disney, but the Pixar is where it's at right now.
Yeah, I mean, I get like that's gotta be that's gotta be it, but it's just weird to me because it's like Finding Nemo feels like, to me at least, somewhat contemporary. Like I remember pretty vividly when it came out and like when I watched that for the first time, and like the fact that this kind of just faded into the background there, like, and I didn't even know that it was happening. Like I must have been so disinterested at the time, you know?
Well, I think probably maybe the writing was on the wall at that point after Finding Nemo did so well. Like they just put all their eggs into that basket and maybe just decided to not market this one as much. Like maybe they
Yeah,
thought they saw the writing on the wall, maybe, and it was just like, well, this one's kind of just going to take a back seat. Because also at this point, Disney animation on its own, like their Pixar movies are always hitting at that point. But Disney animation kind of hits a slump in the mid 2000s where its movies really aren't having that kind of cultural footprint that it used to have in the 90s. So I'm wondering
yeah.
if they kind of just let this one go out to die because they kind of saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah, I mean Disney itself probably doesn't make a comeback till what, like Tangled maybe?
I would say it's like usually like the early 2010s when they start to make that second comeback and you get movies like Tangled and Frozen and Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, I mean you're missing Moana too. Moana was before
Yeah, and
Frozen,
Moana.
right?
Moana also added to the. I would say like pretty much all of the 2010s, Disney was on fire again with their
Yeah.
animated movies. Like every single movie was hitting. Whereas for us growing up in the 2000s, we really had to rely on Pixar to be bringing the heat because Disney Animation Studios wasn't really bringing the heat. They were putting out movies like Home on the Range,
Yeah.
what was that? Meet the Robinsons.
Well, but like it's weird though because like those two movies and then like The Princess and the Frog is the other one that I think of that I never really saw that one.
Yeah,
Um but like I still remember that they happened. You know what I mean? Like even if they
yeah.
aren't quite up to snuff for like the real classic ones, like they still have like some cultural footprint for me. Whereas like this one like just
Hate it.
completely out of my brain,
Yeah.
like in one ear out the other. And I
Never
must
even
have
had a
heard of it because
chance to fade into
I
obscurity.
did find a great thing on YouTube. It was, do you remember the Disney movie surfers?
What? No.
There was like
What is
it was
that?
like it was like this thing on Disney Channel where like they would do like little like vignettes like as like they weren't, it wasn't like a full show, I don't think. I mean it might have been a full show, but I think it was more like on like commercials on Disney. If they weren't running like ads, they would be like, "Oh, it's the Disney movie surfers." And they would like talk to you about a Disney movie that was coming out and they would like interview somebody, and they
Ah,
were interviewing the two moose.
of course. Now we're like,
Yeah.
and they weren't interviewing the actors, right? Like they were
No, it
interviewing
was like the
actual,
literal like cartoon
yeah,
moose. Yeah,
cartoon.
like
Yeah,
the two
that's
brother
exactly
mooses.
something
Yeah.
Disney would do.
Yeah, so it's like, but I was definitely like the Disney Channel was definitely on around my place, so it just seems weird that like I
Yeah,
wouldn't have caught that. Like I must have hated that so much. Like I don't know. It's just
just
like
it just faded into it. It just was always in oblivion. It never even had a chance to make it into obscurity because it was never on your radar.
right, right.
Did you realize while watching
But
that one
anyway,
of the
who did you
moose?
see it with? Like how did you find yourself seeing this?
Well, I've always, me, I've always been the biggest Disney fan. So naturally, I'm in on everything Disney puts out. Even when they tend to be in a slump, I'll still, go to bat for them and be there. So Brother Bear was always in my mirror, so to speak. And I went with Charlie, actually. This was a movie him and me went to go see. And I don't remember. This is another one. Like for me, this actually did fade into obscurity. because we watched it the one time when we saw it in theaters. I remember liking it decently enough, but never hitting the strides of so many other Disney movies. So I never really returned to it. Like we were talking about in the 2000s for us, Pixar is really where we're sending all of our animated, you know, joy to. So this was a movie that kind of just came in and came out for me. And until we watched it for this podcast, this was the first time I've watched it since it was in theaters. So this didn't really
Yeah,
have
yeah.
much of a cultural footprint for me either, even having known about it. So I'm very much so don't feel like you're the only one there that like didn't even know about this movie because even the people who saw it, it kind of just faded into the background after they saw it.
Yeah, and sorry, but did you say like do you remember like what your like who you saw it with? Like was it with your parents or
Oh no, I went with Charlie.
oh God.
Yeah, yeah. This was a movie that him and me went to go see back in the day. I remember enjoying it. Um, did I enjoy it as much this time? That remains to be seen. We're going to dive into that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
That's the
funnily
point
enough,
now.
we talk so much about this fading into oblivion, and not many people having it on their radar. This movie did surprisingly well still at the box office, considering. So let's dive into some numbers, Jim, and let's see whose movie lands on our list of box office performers.
Numbers, dates, numbers, numbers, dates. Hooray. Dates, numbers. Show me the money.
All right, so Brother Bear opens. The budget here isn't on Box Office Mojo, but I did find on Wikipedia that it said it had a $46 million budget. So take that for what it's worth.
It's not bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, for some of the movies we've seen recently, that's like really reasonable. Like, it didn't
Well,
make
what
me like jump out of my seat. Like, what were you thinking? You know what I
when
mean?
the only guy you got to pay is Joaquin Phoenix. Like you're saving a lot of money on that budget right there.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Although I don't know how much you think Rick Moranis costs to play one of those moose.
I don't know. Probably not too much, right?
Yeah, I
Like,
can't imagine a lot.
they do have a pretty big part though, and they had him on the Disney Channel movie Surfers, so
Yeah, right.
like
So yeah, so you're getting him for
that's
extra
gotta
stuff.
count for something. But all right, so this is an interesting one though. It's gonna open the weekend of October 24th to the 26th.
Such a weird time to release that.
Yeah, so but like hear me out, because this is like I don't know if we're really gonna count this weekend because it only opens on two
Okay.
screens.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. And
That's
it
an
pulls
interesting
in
rollout.
yeah, it comes in 22nd place with $292,000. So I don't know
Oh,
if that
yeah.
really
So
counts.
yeah, maybe we let's put an asterisk on that one.
Yeah, but this part will be fun. Going into its second weekend, technically, October 31st to November 2nd, it has a
Ten thousand
not a
percent increase.
drop. It has a 6,546.7% increase because it
Yeah,
goes up to 3,030 screens.
that'll do it.
And it's going to come in second with 19.4 million.
19.4 million. All right, gonna put us in the 39 spot,
Let's
just
call it
behind
19.6. Let's count, or 7. Let's count the 300,000 it made the first weekend.
first week. All right, so then by that accord, we're still in the 39 spot. Just about the same length as Shanghai Nights, which also made 19.7. And then just ahead of the Rundowns, 18 million. That's still such a weird rollout for a Disney movie. Usually animated Disney movies are like you don't roll out in two theaters. I'm like so curious what the idea was behind that.
Yeah, I mean, the only movie we've covered so far that did that was Chicago. And
Yeah,
that's
very
like
different
they're
run.
doing it because it's like a they're trying to get into the Oscars, so they release
Yeah,
it like in a limited release at the end of the year
yeah,
and
it's
then ramp it
it's
up as the Oscar buzz starts, right?
it's odd. It's odd. Especially
Um
also then releasing it wide on Halloween is also kind of an odd move.
so like I don't know, we talk about counter programming a lot and we've talked about this specific weekend a lot. So like the number one movie is Scary Movie 3. Probably not taking your kids to see that. Unless you're my dad. And then and I was a teenager, so not quite the same thing. Um, it comes in second. We talked about third. We've talked about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You're probably not taking your kids to see that. Um, and then Runaway Jury is down here in fifth, and Radio's in fourth. So like I don't know, maybe
Dude,
Radio is like kind of a heartwarming movie, but like the themes
that
are
that is an absolutely absurd five.
Right, right. Another crazy time that existed in movies being released in theaters for sure.
Like
But
2003 has easily been my favorite year that we've talked about so far because it's batshit insane.
it's really like out of
Yeah.
control. Like
Anytime you've read a top five to me, I've been floored every time.
yeah, and I mean like so the when we started doing that it was like June or July and like we're still like in November of that same year. Like this is like 4 months later and like it's
It's
still
insane.
so crazy
They've packed in so much insanity in a
in
handful
just
of
such a
months.
short period of time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um so like the only other movie out here that feels strikes me as like a kids movie is School of Rock, and that's already been out for 5 weeks. It's down in eighth place. So like I kind of get it.
Yeah, it is like it is. I get the counter programming, but it still just seems odd for a Disney movie. Usually like them, I guess because we're used to seeing it in today's context where Disney has such a control over when they release their animated movies now because it's like Thanksgiving weekend we're getting the animated Disney movie. Like your big, June opening you're getting your Disney animated movie. Like they're so coordinated in their release dates today that it's interesting to see back then how they're kind of like, hey, just throw Brother Bear on Halloween. Let's see what happens.
Well, yeah, I mean, but like you're not too far off from Thanksgiving weekend. And if you're assuming that like the horror movies are all gonna have a pretty short run, and you're already counter programming to them anyway, like I kind of see it, right? So like if you go, let's go to weekend three. This is like the second weekend of its wide release, right? Um, it's gonna come in third. It has 18.5 million. It's a 4.5% drop, which
It's a
I
really good
mean,
hold.
like you're getting into the fall, like it's kind of becoming holiday time. Parents are
It
maybe even
is.
spending more time with your kids,
That is a really
and
good
you're
hold.
going up against Elf this weekend, which
Ooh,
opens.
that's I don't know how good that the writing on the wall there is not going to be because Elf is going to end up becoming like a runaway hit.
Yeah, so Elf pulls in 32.1. It comes in second place. We're not watching that one, right?
Uh, is that your guess?
I guess it is my guess. I shouldn't have said the number then before I guessed, but
That's
I
fine.
guess it is my
I mean,
guess.
you did guess it last week, and I said we will be watching it, but it was not our next episode because
Oh, so it's
it's
coming our
now
next
our next
episode.
episode.
Okay.
So yeah,
All right.
we'll watch Elf next week.
Okay. So then forget erase from your memories the
I
number I
al-
just said for
I
Elf.
already
Keep the
forgot it.
suspense alive.
I'm so forgetful. I already forgot the number you said.
Yeah. And so like still like this second weekend of its wide release is pretty good. Like 4.5% drop is nutso. Like we very
That's a
rarely
that's
see
that's amazing. I mean, it also like
anything that low. And you would
they
imagine
started
Elf would be
fairly.
taking way more of its business this week, and it's
Yeah,
like still holding pretty
it's still
strong, you
holding
know?
for it. No, it is holding great. I mean, it did start low, but that is still a phenomenal hold, even opening at like 19 to only drop like $1 million or $2. Like that's still crazy.
Yeah, and then let's go weekend four. It's gonna drop 34.9% down to 12 point, like if you round up 12.1 million.
It's more of a familiar
More of a
drop,
drop,
you'd
but
say.
still not bad, it feels
No,
like. I don't know.
that's
Maybe
still a good hold.
maybe I'm crazy. Notable openings this week. I really hope this is one we watch. Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World comes out.
Jim, do you think I was intelligent enough back then to go see that absolute classic?
I guess not. I don't know.
No, I wish. No. I've watched that movie fairly recently, and I was like, God, you were an idiot for not being gung ho on that back then.
Yeah, you missed a lot of great cinema, dude.
Because that was a really good goddamn movie.
Weekend five, now we're starting to drop, right? 55.6%. It's down in seventh place with 5.3 million.
And it's still not up to the Thanksgiving weekend yet though. So does it have enough to hang around?
Yeah, and then this would be the Thanksgiving weekend, I'm guessing, the 28th to the 30th.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It's going to be down in 10th. It
Oh,
only drops
oh,
8.9% to
holding
4.9
right in
million.
10th.
And then weekend six, it's going to be all the way down in 13th place with 1.3 million.
Ooh, so close.
And
But
weekend six, but you can't count the first weekend either. Like it's 5 weekends inside the top 10. Oh no, wait, I'm sorry. This was weekend seven. I apologize. So it's 6 weeks in the top 10.
6 weeks in the top 10. That's what I was thinking. Okay. It beats the average, which was 5 weeks. So it manages to cling on an extra week and hit the six mark with some other notable movies like Shallow Hal, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, and Terminator 3.
Yeah, and now this is interesting with these totals. Domestic only 85.3 million,
Mhm.
which feels like kind of a miss,
Yeah, that's
but
like definitely
international
low.
165.1.
Which is
Mm,
that's that's odd, especially for like another movie that's like intrinsically tied to Americana.
Yeah, I mean, kinda. I don't know if I would quite call it Americana. It's kind of like, I think it's supposed to be in the Pacific Northwest, but like somewhere between like Seattle and Canada, I'm guessing. And like, Um, I can kind of see where this would have international appeal because like when I'm watching the last like 30 minutes, I'm really like, dude, this sounds like so many like fairy tales that I've heard from like I used to listen to this podcast like Mythology that did like
Yeah.
mythological things from like all different cultures around the world. And like this literally felt like it could have been an episode of that show. You know what I mean? Like it has like
Yeah, it's like
broad appeal in this
broad,
way
yeah,
that I
broad
don't
appeal
think
to
is necessarily like right on the surface, you know?
that somebody would be inclined to in mythology. And I imagine also the Disney brand is just synonymous that has international appeal.
Yeah, that
Like
might
I'm
be
sure,
something interesting to look into
yeah,
the next
I'm
time we do
sure
a
the
Disney
world
movie.
over, not just us, sees a Disney movie come out and they go, "That we're just gonna see it. It's a Disney movie." Like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
world,
and I
it's
mean,
world renowned.
I'd imagine Disney has the juice to like release them pretty widely too, like around the world, you know?
Yeah. So I could see it still having that international appeal just off the brand name alone,
Yeah, but anyway, worldwide total of 250.4 million,
which is
which
off of 46 million budget is that's
right.
yeah, that's solid right there. It might not be like a crazy huge slam dunk Disney's used to, especially like with Finding Nemo a few months earlier making like almost $900 million, but that's still a win right there. And
Yeah, it's a
250,
win, and I mean, like, you know, if too many movies are in the Disney vault and this is out there, this is
that's
probably
true.
taking a pretty good income on home video too.
That is true. Oh, Jim,
Do
I
you
actually
remember
have
the Disney Vault? Do they still do that?
oh, I've no I'd imagine not since the Disney Plus is a thing now and you can just watch everything
Oh yeah, that makes
at a,
yeah, of course
click
they would do
away.
that. What am I thinking?
Yeah, but dude, what an era the Disney Vault was. You better buy this movie before it goes back in the vault, baby.
Yeah, it was like they had like those TV commercials. It was like the most
Yeah,
manufactured
yeah.
scarcity I've ever seen.
Dude, you'd buy the Lion King signature edition, and then they'd be like, it's going back in the vault. And then like a year later, they'd be like, Lion King, back out of the vault, baby, get the platinum
Yeah,
edition.
it
And
was
you'd be
like the
racing to the
McRib, dude. It
store.
was like I feel like it's like the McRib in the sense that it always feels like it's back. I never know when it's gone.
Yeah.
Like it's
I
always
always just
back.
hear about it being back. You got to get it before it's in the vault, baby.
Yeah.
But Jim, we actually have For Brother Bear. So this is November 2003, comes out on video. I'd probably say, around then, probably around like March of '04. The listing that I have here is that by January of 2005, so about almost a full year of this movie being in DVD sales, they made another $170 million.
Right,
So
right.
yeah,
Killer, yeah.
yeah. So a big success. And that 250 we talked about, going to put on our list at the number 30 spot, just behind Scary Movie's 278 and just ahead of Too Fast, Too Furious is 236. So
Wow,
solid.
what great company.
Yeah, great company right there. Absolutely stellar. Now, critically, maybe not as foolproof as that box office was. The critics, not fans of this movie. 37% from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes. But the audience felt a little differently. 66% by the audience. Very much better. That was a popcorn picture when I saw that 66 right there. So big fans over there. 6.9 on IMDb, and it jumped over the hump, Jim. We got an A cinema score. Yeah.
Whoa.
So the people that went opening weekend, they were digging. They were digging hard. And I
It was
know that
jammed,
you've
dude. The
been,
audience liked it. The cinema score was good.
yeah, cinema score was good. Audience liked it. And now, Jim, I know you've been desperate for some good reviews lately. The last few episodes has not been giving us the heat when it comes to the reviews, but I found a guy who gave a 1 star review to Brother Bear that, oh boy,
Oh
my
boy,
word.
I'm
He might
so
I think we're
so
back in the
excited.
game. I think we're back in the game here now, Jim.
Yeah, this feels
Uh,
like it would. How do I put this? There's a couple of arguments on either side of this movie that I could imagine people making today. Let me put it
People
that
take it.
way.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And
this
I
guy,
was very curious to see if anybody made them back then.
and I'm gonna tell you, this guy, he took the bait. So this man writes, what a pathetic pile of liberal rhetoric this movie is.
Yep,
Throughout the
there it is.
entire
Check
movie,
the first
yeah,
box.
we are made to think that humans are evil, vile monsters that hunt and kill poor and defenseless bears that hurt no one. We are made to think that bears are these cute, lovable, and loving animals that just want to be left alone. Yet towards the end of the film, we are shown many shots of bears hunting, killing, and eating salmon. According to
Oh
this
my
movie, it's
god.
totally all right for bears to hunt, kill, and eat salmon, but it is not okay for humans to do the same thing to bears. Why didn't the filmmakers show bears eating and ripping apart root and took? I've seen bears eat deer and moose. Why is it okay for these bears to toss around a salmon, which they've ripped in half and use it as a talking piece? What a bunch of liberal crap. This movie should be banned. This movie is not for children and should be held in the same regard as other types of liberal BS like Fahrenheit 9/11 and Bowling for Columbine.
Yep, those are definitely the two comparisons I thought of the whole time I was watching this. Like, you can barely tell the difference between those movies and this one.
I once again must turn to the age old adage, sir, I think movies might not be for you.
Yeah, that's this was definitely one of the things I thought they would say. Although they didn't quite take the angle I thought they would take. I was thinking it would be more of them like complaining about like representation. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Because it is fairly insane that they were like, we got Native Americans and we're gonna make Joaquin Phoenix and the kid from the Bernie Mac show be like the voices, and it's like that's a little
Well, no,
crazy.
so like that was definitely one of the complaints I thought we might find too, like for sure. But like I was thinking more on this angle. I was thinking people would be like, they got all these Native Americans in movies." Like, you know
Oh,
what
that
I
they're
mean?
they're
Like
mad
I
about the
was half expecting
representation.
somebody to start talking about that, you know?
They're like, yeah, this movie's good and all, but where's the white man at?
Yeah, right, exactly. Exactly. Like I was waiting for that shoe to drop.
Yeah, and what I
But
love the most about this review is that it shows that this guy did not understand one moment of the message of this movie.
oh, dude, I think my favorite line from that review was, "Why weren't the bears ripping those mooses apart?" And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know, because it's a kids movie. Like, what do you
Yeah.
mean?
Like it's so
Is
insane.
that really what you wanted to happen in the middle of this kids movie?
Like, here's a movie just about, someone learning that, hey, maybe violence isn't always the answer. And maybe sometimes we should think about it from the other person's perspective as much as yours. And this guy was
Right.
like, yeah, but they're eating the fucking salmon.
He's like, "You are teaching children to be weak around bears." It's like, I don't think it's really about bears, man. Like, I don't
Yeah,
think
right?
that's really what it's
He's like,
about.
I think you're hinging it too much on the bear perspective.
Yeah, like it's a drawn bear. It talks. I don't think it's the same. Like,
Like, it's an analogy, my friend. Like, the bear is not the important part of the message. Like,
yeah,
the
yeah,
bear is just
and
the messenger.
he really did miss the message. Like at one point, they were literally like, "Not all bears are evil," and it was like, it's like this guy disagrees.
He's like, yeah, but I should be allowed to fucking kill him. Like, this is insane.
Yeah,
Like, you're telling me I should feel bad for hunting bears? Like,
I will say though, the salmon thing did cross my mind. I was like, wait, so like the bears are cool, but and like can talk, and we should be realize we're not so different, but the salmon are just fair game. Like I don't get it.
and fish are obviously not on the equal playing field as the rest of us, Jim. Like, come on.
Right. It just felt like such a weird line to draw.
Yeah. Well, it's just like I love that his two movies to compare it to were like Michael Moore documentaries about like the state of America.
Oh yeah, like that guy, like
Like,
he's very angry.
do we think this might be the same guy as the 9/11 conspiracy guy from Seabiscuit?
It might be. I mean that. You know what? I think you just stumbled onto something really interesting.
Well,
Like these comments have usernames, right?
yeah, I might have to go back and see if it's this. Oh my God, dude, this guy's user. I didn't even look at the username until right now. Jim, I'll give you 1,000 guesses at what this guy's username is.
I I don't want to guess. Just tell me.
His username is simply titled Sepsis.
Oh wow. He didn't realize how accurate he was. No way.
Well, now I'm gonna have to keep an eye out for his things in the future. Um, because that's an insane 1 star review. Um, and then I
Yeah,
got
I mean, like, I have a feeling we will stumble across Mr. Sepsis a few more
yeah, a
times.
few more
Like, I just
times.
have this gut feeling that this guy was spending a lot of time on IMDb,
Wait,
like,
but feeling that
complaining about a
sepsis.
lot of shit that doesn't really matter. Like,
Who would guess that sepsis would rear its ugly head again?
yeah.
All this time, I thought we got rid of you, you son of a bitch. And now we go to the other end of the spectrum for a 10 out of 10 review for Brother Bear here. And it reads, as a parent, I sometimes find it excruciating watching The Wiggles or Fairly Odd Parents and Jimmy Neutron, but I loved watching this movie. And believe me, I hate the corporate, monolithic presence Disney has become. I am not a parent who gives into movie fads or marketing, but this movie has a great message for kids. The animation, incredible. The music, incredible. I think Phil and Mark Mancina were robbed at the Oscars. The soundtrack to Cold Mountain sucks. Lord of the Rings soundtrack can be found in any nursing home or elevator. Okay. I think it really shows these people poured their hearts and soul into this magnificent movie. They really captured the spirit of the North American wilderness with the incredible scenery, wildlife animation, perfect representation of the Native Americans. They did an excellent job. If I was the enchanted wizard of movies, I would banish Phil Jackson and those bastards who made Cold Mountain and Apple Computers, parentheses, they made that movie about the fish that gets lost, from Oscardom and grant Brother Bear all honorifics. Pure
Jesus
insanity. Yeah,
Christ.
that's like pure insanity.
I really love this game because it's like movie horseshoe theory, where like just when you go to the 1 stars and the 10 stars, the people you find are both batshit crazy.
They're
Like,
like absolutely insane. And like I avoid the middle because that's where the normal people are. Because they're like, yeah, it's a solid movie. You're like, yeah,
yeah,
some things
like
work, some
I thought
things
it was
didn't.
pretty cool. I liked it.
Yeah. But
But
these people,
this lady's on a campaign to ban other movies from the Oscars.
he called the Lord of the Rings soundtrack a soundtrack you can find in nursing homes or elevators. Like,
Yeah,
what?
it's wild.
You
It's
know how
wild.
amazing it would be if I stepped onto an elevator and the fucking like the like Hobbiton like music was playing, like
Yeah, they don't play like swelling orchestral music on elevators. I don't know what elevators this guy's getting
Uh,
on, but
also, like, what fucking axe to grind did this person have with Cold Mountain? A lot of pot shots at Cold Mountain in
was
this
this
review.
when was this review posted? Would it have been after the Oscars, you think?
So this one was right around like Christmas time that it came out. I couldn't find one for the 10 stars that were like right at the opening weekend. It was like a month to 2 to 3 afterwards.
If it was
Uh
2003 Christmas that review's from?
yeah, because Cold Mountain came out like early December. So this had to have
Gotcha.
been. So like this was right around when that came out. I also love the pot shot that they take at Finding Nemo too. Like Apple
Yeah,
Computers, they made that movie about the fish getting lost. Like
yeah.
Jesus, lady, like
Yeah, they said Finding Nemo should be banished from the
from
Oscar.
Oscardom. It's
Which
like,
I'm
oh my
pretty sure
God.
that's not a thing they do. I don't know.
Yeah, like but yeah, like I just yeah, amazing. You know, we took a few weeks off where we couldn't get some like really unhinged people, and who would have thought that Brother Bear of all movies would have been the one that really brought him back to the forefront?
I had a feeling. I had a feeling that this would be polarizing.
Very, yeah, very polarizing, Brother Bear. And I guess now we could turn our attention over to our thoughts and see if we land as polarizing as any of these people did in regards to Brother Bear. How did you feel about this, Jim, on a first time watch?
I thought the first like half hour or so was like kind of interesting, but like kind of like I don't know, cookie cutter, I guess. Like that's kind of like That's the biggest critique I think I have of the movie is that like it feels very paint by numbers at times. You know what I mean? Like it feels like if you like told a really good AI to write a Disney movie, this might be the movie that it writes, you know?
Well, it does feel very much like a not like carbon footprint, but in the way you're saying paint by numbers, akin to like The Lion King. So you got a main character who gets cast out from his world, meets some colorful characters in his banishment, and has to make his way in his pilgrimage back home to be worthy of like the land in which he operates.
Yeah, I mean I guess so. I feel like you could if you describe it that vaguely, you could describe a lot of movies.
A lot of I mean
Um
that's kind of akin to like many Disney movies though. It's like you have a character in the beginning unworthy of the thing in which they live in, and they go on like a journey to earn their place
yeah, I
in that
don't think
spot.
that's a Disney movie thing. I think that's just like a stories
No, it is a
thing.
story. No, but I'm saying
Like
Disney is someone who uses that story trope,
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot. Like, and that you
Sure.
could apply that to a majority of their movies. I do find it interesting though that you feel that it was, and I mean, I'm not to say that it didn't also feel cookie cutter, but to me, and I don't know if this was just the fact that I was super high when I watched this movie, I'm not gonna lie,
Okay.
but that first act up until he gets turned into a bear and his middle brother makes the decision to like hunt the bear down, I was gung ho in on this movie.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the first like 20 minutes are probably my favorite part.
The
Like,
first act of this movie is was really good to me. And I was like, I'm in, bro. Like, we got this brother dynamic going on. This kid is way in over his head, and now he's got to like survive as a bear, like, and his brother's hunting him down. Like, I'm in. And then what
yeah,
absolutely murders and grinds this movie to a halt is the fact that it remembers that it has to be a Disney movie and has to throw in like really shitty comedy into the,
right,
and not
yeah.
to say that Disney fails all the time at comedy, because they've made it work in a lot of movies like Lion King, The Little Mermaid. Like, they're good at making those colorful cast of characters at times. It just did not hit in this one. Like,
Yeah, I
the
mean,
two moose, I was like, I hate everything you guys are doing. Like,
they feel very out of place in
yeah, it
this
was
movie.
like, you
Yeah,
guys
like
are
the way
killing
they
it.
act feels very out of place.
Yeah.
But like, that's kind of what I mean. And maybe it doesn't get more cookie cuddle to later than I was thinking. Because I'm with what you're saying. Like the beginning is like really interesting, and there's a lot of depth there. It feels like it's a lot of good setup. And it's not only good setup, but it's like unique. You know what I mean? Like there's like a uniqueness to it, like with not just Disney movies, but like with just like animated movies in general. Like it's touching on something I haven't really seen a ton of. You know what I mean? And then it's like once he turns into a bear, it feels like they're more in the realm of like, well, okay, like he needs to learn to like love this bear, and the bears aren't so different. And so like, how do they do that? They walk and they like bicker a little bit. Like it's
Yeah,
lacking like a real exploration of everything it sets up, like the setting specifically.
exactly.
Because like if you compare it to Finding Nemo, right? Like Finding Nemo is a pretty tropey story too, you know? It's like very similar, honestly. Like he's just on
They're
a
going on a
journey to
journey.
go get something, and he needs to change, right?
Yeah.
Um, but Finding Nemo works so much better to me because you're constantly exploring all of these different things about fish and the ocean, and there's always something new that's like visually cool on the screen, or like there's a new whale that has like this weird sound. Like it's really like getting to like all of the stuff, and it's like using the setting like to its fullest extent, you know?
Absolutely. And it
Even up to
also,
and including the fish in the tank, you know what I mean? Because you're like you see this whole ocean world, and then you have to go to the tank to see what's going on there and how these fish are the same but different, right? This movie starts off kind of in the same way, where like you're exploring this like cool deep culture, and there's like all these cool relationships getting set up and this like interesting setting, and then it's just two bears walking in the woods for the next like 45 minutes, and I'm just like, okay, like we're kind of missing it here, you know?
well, like another thing to that point, especially with Finding Nemo too, is as they're going through that journey and coming across all these new things, they're all things to test and chip away at the defenses that Marlin has put up throughout his entire life to not only like keep him safe,
Right.
but keep his son safe. So he's got to break that down and chisel that, block by block. And Kenai doesn't have to do any of that throughout the middle of the movie. Like he basically just walks and gets annoyed, but subtly starts to like this kid until he learns that he killed his mother. And then all of a
Yeah,
sudden we're up to like the end already. Like there's no like the middle of this movie doesn't continue to explore and chip away at everything that he's done in the first half of that movie to cause him to be this bear. Like he
right.
should have to break down piece by piece all that selfishness and what he thinks it takes to be a man that he's accumulated that we know from the beginning and strip that
Yeah,
away as he goes on.
yeah. It all comes a bit too easy, I
Yeah.
think, is what
Yeah.
we're
And
saying. Like,
which is such a shame because I love like I just was so in that moment where we see the middle brother like pick up Kenai's totem and wrap it around the spear and make that decision to now like join what Kenai's quest was, and then it just cuts to black. And I'm like, dude, that's a perfect act one right there, man. Like I'm in.
yeah,
And then they did everything in their power to take all of that away from me.
yeah.
Like,
Well, the brother is not really in the movie. Like, I
yeah,
mean,
he
he
doesn't do
chases them a little bit in the like beginning of what I guess is Act Two, like when
yeah,
he catches them in that like ice cave.
yeah,
And then they ride those mammoths for like forever. Which again, why are the mammoths not equal? Like, are bears the only ones who can talk? It's like I guess
yeah.
the moose can talk too.
The problem is that in the second half of the movie, they want to become a much more conventional Disney movie.
Right.
Whereas the first
Right.
half of this movie to me doesn't feel like a Disney movie. Like it's deep, it's intense, it's like violent. Like they hunt down that, like he hunts down that bear basically and like
Yeah.
traps it into a point where like he like murders it. Like that whole portion of that opening, like with his brother dying and like is intense and very dramatic.
Yeah.
And
And
then
as
they
you're
strip
talking
all
about
that
this,
away.
yeah, as you're talking about this, I'm going back to all the writers you listed in the beginning,
Yeah.
and it
And it,
just screams to me of like somebody probably wrote like an awesome draft of that
yes.
movie.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then so
And they were
it
like,
got
it's
some
too
heat
dark.
and like they were like digging it, and then a bunch of executives came in and were like, all right, you're fired, we're hiring
Yeah.
this guy, and they're like, we need talking moose in it.
Yeah.
Like, you
And
know
one
what
guy
I
was
mean?
like, dude,
Like,
you know what would be hilarious if they ride woolly mammoths. They're like, that's a
right,
great a
right,
bear on a woolly
exactly.
mammoth, like that's hilarious.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whereas like instead, like there should be
Could
like
you
I don't
imagine?
yeah, and like instead there should be a scene where Kenai, while interacting with the woolly mammoths, learns of the woolly mammoths also have the fear of being hunted by humans. And you're chipping
Right.
away at more of him learning, like, hey, if I look at things from another perspective, there's this whole other world in which I could be connected to that I'm not. And
Right. And it's
they don't.
another
They just
thing
take
like
the easy way out.
it's exactly what I was trying to say before with Finding Nemo, where like Finding Nemo doesn't just like get in it, like Marlin doesn't just get in a jet stream with turtles who are just like in the jet stream, like
Yeah.
and like not
Yeah.
saying anything. You know what I mean? Like he has like conversations with them, like that move the movie forward and like
Yeah.
change him as a person or as a fish, I guess.
And they should be using
And
that.
like you're saying, that doesn't happen a lot in this movie. Like it's not really and it eventually gets there, but it doesn't feel like it earns it by the time
Earns
it
it.
gets
Yeah.
there.
Like, because like the first act and then the ending, I'm with. And I like the idea that like he's gonna have to change because he's gonna be involved with the kid of the mother who he killed. Like I'm with like all of that works. It's just that that whole middle chunk you took the laziest route to get us to there. That you
Yeah.
ruined what could have been a really, really good animated movie about, learning this lesson that you had. Because this is a good lesson. I'm with this. I'm always in for an environmental message. I like animals a lot. I'm always with on this. But you took the laziest route to get there.
Yeah, and I mean, I wonder if like part of it is like, because this movie is like pretty close to 90 minutes, I think. I wonder if it's just like, do you need it to be 15 to 20 minutes longer to really get there? And if somebody wasn't really digging that, you know?
I feel like you could still do it in the same amount of time. Like you just get rid of that really silly, like mute. Also, get Phil Collins out of there, man.
No,
Hey, get him out
hold
of
on,
there. Get
hold
absolute
on.
no, dude. That one song when they're just like riding on the woolly mammoths and everything. I'm like, you got to stop, dude. Like this movie did not need Phil Collins. Like, I'm sorry, but absolutely not.
I think Phil Collins lifts it up, bro. I
Oh
think Phil
no.
Collins. The one on the Woolly Mammoths was a little rough, but the song at the Salmon Run I thought was really great.
That Ryan song. And then like what is like isn't it like Whitney Houston or someone like singing the opening song when it's like brothers love brothers. And I'm
I
like, this
don't
is
know.
way too on the nose. Like you guys are killing me with this shit.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. It's also like, it feels like it's like kind of like Tarzan, maybe in a way, where it's almost like halfway between a musical and a movie.
And like
You know,
I
like
don't
a
like
lot of
that.
the Disney movies really lean into being musicals, and these ones, these
Like
Phil
aren't.
Collins ones specifically, don't feel like they lean into it as much. They
Yeah.
kind of just like
There's
pop
just
up out of
music
nowhere in the
over it.
songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, right,
And
and it's just music over it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't like it. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah,
Like
it
either
feels
be a
rare that you
music
have
yeah, either be a
good
musical or
music
don't.
in movies that has lyrics and like somebody in the movie isn't singing it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like
Yeah.
it feels rare that that works.
Yeah. It's bizarre. And I dislike it a lot. It's like, please stop doing that. Every time it started up, I was like, no, God, no.
I liked the Salmon Run one though because it was the Salmon Run thing was really long and it really needed like it needed Phil Collins for me to care about it as much as I cared about it, if that
Oh
makes
my God.
sense.
Yeah, sure. Right. I'm right there with you.
Oh,
And I
come
mean,
on. You're telling me Phil Collins doesn't tug on the heartstrings? Get out of here, bro.
in Tarzan, yeah, he worked for me in Tarzan, but like I didn't want it in this one. He felt weirdly out of place. And I think it was that he doesn't show up until, we're like it really into the movie. Like if he was there from the get-go, like, all right, fine. Like this is a choice you've made. But like he's not singing the first song. He doesn't come in until their bears like on the journey together. And at that point, I'm like, no, we're too deep into this. Why are you here? Like, get out of
Yeah,
here.
but he did all the music, right? He was credited for the score as well.
Yeah, I just think they got somebody else to sing the opening song, but
Yeah. But
I
I mean
was
like
it was just it's just tonally weird to me. I feel like
yeah.
for this
I
movie.
guess what I'm saying is even if Phil Collins isn't singing words, he still wrote all the music you're hearing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
but if
not like
he's just
I'm not
scoring
saying
it,
like just the song where somebody else sung the words, but just when it's just music, you know what I mean?
no, but I
And
mean
it
I'm not
kind of
against.
blends really well into when he starts singing at parts later on. I don't know. I kind of dug the music. I think we're gonna disagree on it,
And
you
that's
know?
fair. No, that's fair. And again, I don't know if he scored the movie. It just felt weird tonally to me when like Phil Collins songs just came into it. It was like, dude, come on, like,
Yeah.
please stop.
He's listen. How am I supposed to know that two bears care about each other if
Oh my
Phil
god,
Collins isn't belting out tunes?
brother, love, brother. It's like
Exactly.
so silly. It's so silly. But yeah, and
No, but
it's
that's also though that's also like another thing. It feels to me as if some executive somewhere was like, okay, now you're fired and you're hired. Get me Phil Collins. You know what I mean?
felt
Like
very much
just like
like
people love that in Tarzan. Let's put it in this
exactly.
movie.
Yeah, exactly. It felt more like it didn't feel like it was a choice for this movie as much as it was, hey, he worked in Tarzan. It was great. We're gonna do it. Like bring him back. We're gonna put him in. We're gonna do this again. And it was like, yeah, but does it really need Phil Collins?
I think it did at certain parts. Because I wonder if they were like, this movie isn't hitting the way we want it to, so get me Phil Collins because he made that last movie hit. Like, I don't want to rewrite this whole thing. I will reanimate this whole thing. Just put some Phil Collins tunes in it, and people will like feel what I
Yeah,
want them
I
to
don't know.
feel.
I wonder if I would have liked it more too. That the music choices, if they maybe went more into the kind of like spiritualness music that like Native Americans attune to, more than just being like, hey, we're gonna throw the drummer from Genesis in here, and we're just gonna play
Yeah,
like kind of like pseudo pop songs.
yeah. I mean, you're not wrong. That probably would have made it a lot better if they did
Yeah,
that instead.
yeah, because it felt like they were like, we want to tell this story about Native Americans, but like they didn't go full in.
Yeah, and it doesn't, I don't know, this is gonna probably sound terrible, but like, I don't know that it needs to be authentic for it to check that box for a lot of people. It just needs to like sound like what they think makes it authentic. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
Like I couldn't tell you what the actual traditional music would sound like, but if you played some like tribal drums and put like some flute behind it, I'd probably be like, okay, yeah, that's what I. This seems like what it should sound like, you know?
seems like it. Yeah, it seems like on par. But again, like I don't think there's anything wrong with trying that. That at least seems more akin to it than what Phil Collins did.
Yes, no, you're right. You're right. I feel like it would have made it a lot better.
As long as they just didn't have Leslie Nielsen in there, being like, "Hey, how are ya? Hey, how are ya?"
Yeah,
Then we're
that would
fine.
have been bad. That would
Then
have
we
been
haven't crossed
bad.
the line. Then we're okay.
But no, so I don't know. I mean, like this might be the perfect movie for potentially my favorite drop that we have.
Wanna get you close, my friend, but not too close, eh?
Where it's like
We
it
haven't
feels
had
like
that
they're
drop in a while.
saying like all the bones are there and I like the beginning and I like the ending. The ending really hits, which helps it out a lot because it's the
Yeah,
last thing I see.
yeah, and he makes a great
Um
choice. And I love, the idea of like he finally gets to put his mark on the wall, and it's as his spirit animal, the bear. Like I'm like the
yeah.
opening act and the ending are hit hard and they hit great. And
Yeah,
there
and
was
the ending particularly works for me because it's like you know, he started out with this goal of becoming a man and he's got to live his spirit totem, you know what I mean? And he's in
yeah,
the beginning, he's like, I don't know what that means. And by the end, it's like, well, you turn into a bear and then you become a bear's older brother and then you like stay a bear. You choose to stay a bear forever. Like that's what it means. And it's like, well, of course you didn't know what it means. How the hell were you going to come up with that? Like there's no way.
but it's
So
also
like
like
it's
when he
cool to me to think like he accomplished what he set out to accomplish, but he had to change so drastically to actually do it, like in a way that he never could have predicted and never would have signed up for. But by the end, it feels so right, you know? Like
I
I
think and
think
it's
that's really cool.
yeah, and it's a great like unique change that he has to make because it's like this it shows self-sacrifice because it's like, hey, you want to understand what it means to be a man, like you're going to make the choice to give up living as a human to take care of this bear that you're responsible for because you killed its mother, and you're choosing to do it and make that self-sacrifice. Like that's
Yeah.
being a man, is stepping up to your mistakes, owning that, and doing what you can to make it right. Like that's being a man.
Yeah, and it's so cool. And this is like, in this ending specifically, this is kind of when it gets into like mythology territory,
Mm.
where like he is like fully accepted back in his tribe as a bear. And like he's probably not living with them, you know what I mean? Like he's probably letting
Anytime
them
they need a
work
bear,
like
bro,
doing
like
bear shit.
yeah, anytime they need a bear though, like he shows up to wreck some shit. It's like, bro, you guys need a ride? Like I'm here. Like, bro, you need to scare
But
somebody off? Like I'm here.
But yeah, could you imagine though, just being one of the people in that village, like where you're like, oh, guess what? What was his name?
Yo,
Keanu?
yeah, like, yo, did you
Keanu?
hear? Kenai's a bear now.
Yeah, Kenai. Like, dude, Kenai became a man. Oh, sweet. How's he living his totem? Well, he turned into a bear, and he's just a bear forever now, and he's coming to put his paw print on the wall. And, like, that would be the most epic fucking ceremony of all time.
You'd be like, bro,
Like,
I
you would
need.
you would tell your grandkids about that shit.
All right. I mean, I'd be showing up there. I'd be like, bro, I need the peace pipe for this. Someone
Yeah,
pass the peace pipe. I need it.
exactly.
It's gonna be a party, bro.
Yeah, and that's really when it gets into like mythological territory where you're just like this is a story people tell about this dude and the lesson you learn is life is unexpected and sometimes but you usually get to where you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
And it's such a cool like fanciful story to tell to teach that lesson, you know? So I think that part's so cool. But then like I also feel like I was robbed of the movie that ends that way, if that makes sense.
No, no, I feel you. This movie has a great start and a great finish that feel like they connect very well to each other. And then people meddled in the middle and
Yeah.
took
And it's like
away whatever that journey was to really make it. Because like I'm feeling it at the end, and I'm like, yeah, you're speaking to me. This is hitting me. But like this movie, the way that first act was, if that second act hits just as good as the first one, I'm sobbing by the end of this movie. And you didn't get me there.
right,
You teased
right.
me. You didn't get the
Yeah,
tears out.
they didn't get me there. You know
Yeah.
what movie got me there? Good Dinosaur.
Well, we're
Like
we're we're about a little 10 years a little early for that one,
yeah,
Jim.
but it's just interesting because like I saw Good Dinosaur a bunch of times in theaters and I cried like every time. So like your point stands. Like And like it's annoying because if the beginning is really good and the ending is really good, I know that there's a version of the middle of this movie that's really good. Like you can't have both of those bookends without being able to connect them. You know what I mean? Like there's got to be a way for you to do this that's interesting, you know?
It's a shame
And then
that
you're right, they just don't get there.
you don't get there. That the middle did everything in its power to ruin those bookends, which is a shame because if that second also to that if that second part hits as good as the first in the ending, this is top tier Disney. This is one of the best Disney movies they've ever made, and we don't
Right,
get it.
right.
We
It's
don't
up
get it.
there
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
up there. It would rival so many classics, and and it's right there. Like the bones are there, like you said, but they couldn't put it together to show us the great painting that it could have been, and it's a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's about all I got
and
for
then
that.
yeah, I think we should look at some awards.
Oh, of course, this is where we got some awards.
I mean, it only wins two, and one of them is that stupid BMI Film and TV Awards.
I don't want to hear from them anymore. They're always
Yeah.
nonsensical.
Right,
They
right.
got
So
nothing for me.
two wins, but that's kind of like doesn't count. And then I don't even see what else it won here. The
I would
the real
imagine.
headline is that it got nominated for best. Oh, it won another thing, ASCAP Film and Television Music Awards. So it won like two things for music. Don't really care.
You filthy.
Um, the real headline is that it's nominated for best animated feature at the Oscars.
And I think that's only because like you only have like three animated movies a year at this point, so they kind of just like end up nominating whatever comes out that year
Yeah, I mean,
because
I remember they only
because
nominate
no
three
way,
because there's
no,
way less animated
yeah,
movies in
yeah.
general,
And
right?
obviously Finding Nemo wins it that year.
Right. Finding
Oh,
Nemo wins it. And then, I mean, just to put it in perspective, I'm sure it's a great movie, but I'm also sure neither one of us have seen it. The Triplets of Belleville is like the third
what?
movie that's nominated.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
never,
foreign movie, I'm
never heard
pretty
of it. Yeah,
sure.
I think we talked about it when we did the Finding Nemo episode. Because that name rings a bell, and I think we brought it up when we did Finding Nemo. But yeah, like just not Brother Bear does not belong. Like if the middle hits, yeah, Brother Bear belongs in that company, but it don't.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And that, I mean, that's really it for awards. It gets like a couple of other Best Animated Movie awards, but what more is there to say about that, right?
All right, that's not really.
Um,
Are we
I
diving
don't
into
know
Joaquin?
if there's any actors we want to do here.
I mean, you got it's
Uh,
really either Joaquin Phoenix or we could do the Rick Moranis card because how many times will we get to talk about Rick Moranis? Actually, this is the last movie Rick Moranis ever did.
all right, so we'll
He
go over
retired.
Rick Moranis
He
then. Yeah,
retired
that's a
after
good one.
this.
Real quick, there's that guy in here who's a
Is there?
repeat from Phantom Menace. He was the Greg Proops, like the guy who was like the announcer at the pod racing in Phantom Menace. He's one of the bears at the salmon run, the one who's like all lovey-dovey with the other bear.
Guy from Who's on It Anyway, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh, that's hilarious. I don't know what her name is, but I would recognize that voice anywhere because I watch it religiously. But George Costanza's mom was also one of the bears
Oh yeah, yeah,
at
yeah.
the
She was the
at the
one who was
salmon
like,
run.
"My husband died," and then you hear him in
Yeah.
the background like, "I'm still alive."
And he's like, I'm still alive.
So stupid.
So dumb. Oh, actually,
Also,
dude,
just because
and how can you forget Michael Duncan?
I was just gonna say we have to mention Michael Clark Duncan. Do you take Michael Clark Duncan voicing a bear or voicing a gorilla general in the Planet of the Apes army? What do you pick?
Oh, the gorilla in the ape army. He was commanding. I would follow him into battle.
Oh yeah, totally. I am definitely taking his Planet of the Apes run. Um, because give me a second here.
He's going for it.
Bow your heads!
There it is. So yeah, I mean,
He's great.
Bow your heads!
how do you not take that? It's there's nothing nearly that good in this movie.
No, he's got no energy.
But then so we can talk about Rick Moranis a little bit. I mean, like
A legend.
pretty legendary actor, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like he makes most of his hay like in the 80s and 90s.
Well, he was definitely, yeah, probably at his biggest when we were growing up.
Well, all right. There's one movie, 1984.
I know what you're gonna say. A classic that we watched together. I know what you're gonna say, Jim.
Just the absolute fever dream of a movie. I like still question if it really exists or not. 1984 is Streets of Fire.
Dude, I still remember when we hunted down that movie to watch and watched it, and it was everything I'd hoped it'd be and more.
Yeah, it delivered. It's very much Streets of Fire.
Yeah,
It's
yes, it
it's
is.
unmistakably
I
so.
would implore anybody who has not watched Streets of Fire to hunt that movie down and watch it. It is insane. Diane Lane, Rick Moranis, Willem Dafoe, Bill Paxton. It's a movie.
Yeah, it's dude, it's a fever dream. It's
Yeah.
like not quite a movie. I get lost in it. I kind of want to watch it again, honestly. Same year, 1984, he's in the all-time classic Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah, come on. Absolute classic.
And then one more feature film here, like that's like gets a theatrical release in 1984, The Wildlife. I don't know what that is,
What a
but pretty
cast.
big year.
Chris Penn, Leah Thompson, Eric Stoltz, Randy Quaid. My God.
A high school wrestler parties with his buddy at a swinging singles apartment complex.
Just,
Sounds kind of lame, honestly.
yeah.
Uh, 1985. Have you ever seen this movie, Brewster's Millions?
No, I've never even heard of it.
Dude, it's so good. I'm pretty sure it's Richard Pryor. Let me just double check.
That is, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, Richard Pryor. So you're
Focuses,
looking at the synopsis?
yeah, focuses on a minor league baseball pitcher who accepts a challenge to spend 30 million in 30 days in order to inherit 300 million from his great uncle. What? It was John Candy. Yeah, yeah. There we go.
Yeah, it's like his great uncle doesn't want to leave the money to somebody who's like a miser. He wants to give it to somebody who's gonna like use it.
Dude,
So
directed
he's
by
like, if you want
Walter
to get
Hill.
it, you have to spend 30 million in 30 days.
That's absurd. That's so absurd.
Yeah,
God,
it's a funny movie though.
we made the silliest shit.
1986, he's in. This is another one, Club Paradise. You've seen Club Paradise, right?
No, I've never heard of that either.
It's oh my God, dude, it's a Robin Williams movie. He goes to like Jamaica to run a nightclub, I think, or like a resort or something like that.
Okay.
Uh, and then this is really more of a Rick Moranis movie, 1986 Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that. That's a classic. Steve Martin
Yeah,
too, right?
yeah. Steve Martin plays the sadistic dentist. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's a classic.
Uh, this is a pretty sick run, honestly. 1986 Little Shop of Horrors, 1987 Spaceballs, and then 1989 Ghostbusters 2, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and Parenthood.
You put all three of those out in 1 year,
Yeah.
dude. That's
Well,
a run.
no,
Well, yeah.
Little Shop of Horrors and Spaceballs were 86 and 87.
No, I know, but the three
89 Ghostbusters
Ghostbusters.
2, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and Parenthood. Yeah. And then there's
Those are-
also like a TV movie in there.
Dude. Spaceballs, easily one of the funniest comedies ever made. Funny I Shrunk the
Uh,
Kids, way better than it has any right being. Like that movie, great. So great.
Baseballs is one of the funniest comedies, but it also goes completely off the rails in the last like 15 minutes.
Yes, it does, and I love it for it.
That whole escape pod sequence is so dumb. It's not funny at all. I am going to submit that this movie in 1990 is the best Rick Moranis movie, and it's not particularly close.
That-
My Blue Heaven, also a Rick
oh,
Moranis, Steve Martin
yep.
movie.
Yeah, no, that movie's amazing. I love that movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that's one of the funniest movies to me.
Yeah, that movie's fantastic.
That's the, that's where Steve Martin tells the joke. What's the difference between a pregnant woman and a light bulb? Do you know the punchline?
What is the difference?
You can unscrew a light bulb.
It's
That
silly.
movie's that movie's great, dude.
Yeah, that movie is fantastic.
Then 1992, he follows up. I Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, the
What
lesser known sequel
we
to
really gave
Honey, I Shrunk.
trilogies to anything back then.
Yeah, for real. 1994, a movie that's near and dear to my heart. All right, so are you taking um, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids or Little Giants?
Little Giants.
Yeah, I'm taking Little Giants. That's an all-time
That
classic.
was a close battle though. I love both of those movies, but Little Giants is so good.
Yeah,
Fucking
Little
Ed
Giants.
O'Neill in that movie
Ed
is
O'Neill is
so good.
incredible in that movie. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
so great. And then this is another good one. Have you ever been on the Honey, I Shrunk the Audience ride?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Great,
Yeah, because
great
that,
3D show.
yeah.
4D.
Oh, 40. What do they have like
4D. Yeah, they
snail
brought it out. They
making
brought it out to you in the crowd.
And then that's really it for like feature stuff. There's other TV movies, none of it seems worth mentioning. I guess the Flintstones. Do you take do you take um Honey, I Shrunk the Kids or the Flintstones?
Funny, I Shrunk the Kids.
What about okay, so, and you
I
took
do
Little
I do
Giants.
have a soft spot for the Flintstones. I think that movie is entertaining, but I wouldn't like say it's good.
No, it's definitely not good. The Flintstones is maybe the best example of how in the 90s they were still starving for IP, but they would just turn everything into a 90s movie. That's
Yeah.
the best way I can think to describe it. Like it just they all seemed exactly the same, and they were
It's
like,
just
and this one just
insane.
has Fred Flintstone in it.
Yeah. Well, it was just crazy that they were just like, we want to make we need IP. What should we do? What if we made live action movies of Hanna-Barbera cartoons? And somebody was like, yes, we should do that. It was like, no, you should not.
Yeah, and they just have like they all look like crappy sets. Like that movie reminds me of Planet Apes, a Planet of the Apes in a lot of ways. It's the best thing I can compare it
Do
to,
that.
honestly. And then yeah, so where do you rank Brother Bear amongst those?
I mean, I'd
I
put
mean,
it
we both
above.
know it's below Streets of Fire, right?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, I would put it below pretty much all of those movies, with the exception of maybe like the Flintstones.
Yeah, it definitely beats the Flintstones. I don't know. I almost just said something crazy, maybe.
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna
What were you
say
gonna
maybe
put it
I would put
above?
it ahead of Spaceballs.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I know. As soon as I was like
That's
about to
yeah,
say it, and I'm like, oh,
that's
do I really mean that? Like,
that's
I don't think I
bold.
mean that.
Yeah, that's bold.
Um, yeah, I don't know. There's not much other than the Flintstones that I would put it above. You're
Yeah,
right. I
me
mean, I
neither.
guess like the Honey I Shrunk the Kids sequels, I probably
Yeah,
would put
but
it above.
those, but I'd probably put those like right there in with brother, at like the same level as Brother Bear. Like I don't know that I'd put Brother Bear above that so much as I would just group those together.
Yeah, that's fair. Did you ever see the sequel to this movie?
Fuck no. The direct back when Disney was pumping out those direct to DVD
I
sequels.
was gonna say it definitely was direct to DVD, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, I did not. I did not see the
And I would
second
almost
one.
guarantee that what's his name didn't come back, right?
Joaquin Phoenix. There's zero shot.
All right, so
What
we're
I want to
gonna
know is
play.
what is the sequel about?
Okay, let's see. Um, an old female friend of Kenai needs his help on a quest, much to Koda's growing consternation.
Interesting. Dude, fucking Patrick Dempsey replaces Joaquin Phoenix.
I was just gonna say, yeah, Patrick Dempsey. I mean,
Dude, I might
look,
have to watch it. It's probably
Jeremy
on Disney
Suarez came
Plus.
back as Koda. Rick Moranis came back as Rhett. Dave Thomas came back as Took, who's
Dude,
the other moose.
I
And
might
listen to
have
who else
to.
they got to be in this movie. Kathy Najimy,
Know who that
who you
is.
probably don't recognize her name, but you definitely recognize her face.
Okay. Oh,
Um,
the she's in the Hocus Pocus.
yep.
Yeah.
Catherine O'Hara is in this. Is a voice in this. Mandy
Okay.
Moore plays Anita,
Oh my God.
which is really all I need to know. Dude, were you there? This was like one at the theater one time, and this guy was trying to get tickets to a movie, and it was sold out. And his girlfriend was like, "Let's just see that other movie." And he's like, "It's got Mandy Moore in it." And she's like, "Yeah, so?" He's like, "We're not seeing that." Like,
Jesus.
Like he just like hated Mandy Moore so much, and I don't know if I would say I hate her, but like I kind of agree. Like if Mandy Moore's in a movie, I'm just like, yeah, why would I watch that? Like,
I mean, I would definitely be like, well, this movie is going to be of a certain quality, but I don't know if I would just be like Mandy Moore.
yeah, that's fair. This guy definitely like it was like weird levels of
To him,
hatred for
he
Mandy
was like,
Moore.
it's an affront to my being to
Right, like the
watch anything.
suggestion that they
Yeah.
should even consider seeing a movie that
Yeah.
Mandy Moore was in was like offensive to him. But yeah, Michael Clark Duncan comes back.
Oh my
Um,
God.
Jason Marsden.
What? Oh my God.
He's just additional voices, but is that who I think it is? I don't.
It's not James Marsden. It's not the guy. It's not
Oh,
Cyclops.
Jason Marsden. Yeah, yeah, right. That's like it's like off-brand James
Yeah.
Marsden. All right, and I think that's really all I got for IMDb.
Quite a movie for there. We'll definitely have to check out Brother Bear too. But for that, we could turn our attention over to our star ratings. Are we getting the Roger Ebert drop?
Nah, we're not getting the Roger
Yeah.
Ebert drop
Do you want to
because
take
it's
it?
like
Do you think Raj though would want the drop? What do you think Raj gave this movie, Jimbo?
I think my guess is that Raj would have absolutely nailed like the glaring story, like holes in the story. I think he gave this like a middling score, like 2.
Two? Mm,
Yeah.
he gave this 3 stars.
Oh,
Three
okay.
out of
That's
four.
pretty good.
Yeah, he wrote that the film doesn't have the Zowie factor of The Lion King or Finding Nemo, but is sweet rather than exciting. Children and their parents are likely to relate on completely different levels. The adults connecting with the transfer of souls, while the kids are excited by the adventure stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Raj makes a fair point. He's grading it as a kids movie. Like so like yeah, like as a kids movie, I could see this getting 3 out of 4. And then like also leave it to Raj to just like turn our and what we were talking about this entire podcast episode and just call it the Zowie factor.
Oh,
Like
the
3 words
Zowie.
and he totally nailed it. Like,
Absolutely. Just bringing amazing words to the lexicon here. I'm gonna have to throw Zowie factor into my daily.
is he talking about like just the animation? The Zowie factor is such a weird thing to say.
I don't know, Jim. I couldn't tell you. He's uh he's an enigma.
If I get one question that I can ask Roger Ebert, it's what did you mean by the Zowie factor, Raj? What does that mean?
We just meet him in like a hallowed temple in the afterlife, and he's like, "You have one question you can ask the Raj."
Yeah.
I'm like, Raj, what do you mean by
I,
Zowie factor?
it's replaced why did you give Spawn 3.5 stars?
Man. All right, Jim, we turn it over to you. What final rating, final thoughts, Brother Bear?
I'm gonna give it a 2.5 out of 5 because there's a lot going on I like. I dug the music. The beginning and the ending is good, and if the ending is good and I'm into it, you get a lot of credit, I think. So I will say it's like right in the middle.
2.5 from Jimbo. Yeah, I'm right around there too. I'm gonna give this bad boy a 3-er. Um, I do. And it's getting it solely based off the same thing you said, off of the first act of this movie and the finale, because those they hit hard and they hit great, and I was completely enraptured by them. And it's just such a shame that the middle of this movie really does everything in its power to pull you out of that. So I'll give it right around the middle of the road right there. So with a 3 from me and a 2.5 from Jimbo, it's going to give us an overall score of a 5.5. And we're going to do battle right now with we got a couple of we got 3 5.5s to fight with. So we'll see where Brother Bear ends up on this list. Do you take Jimbo, Brother Bear, or Bruce Almighty?
Uh, Brother Bear.
Really, Brother Bear?
Yeah, he's like pretty easily, I think.
Pretty easily.
Bruce Almighty is not really my kind of movie.
Interesting. I'm trying to sit there because I do like. Oh man, it is a battle right there.
I don't know. I didn't really like Bruce Almighty the time I watched it. What did I give that one?
You gave it the same thing at 2.5.
Okay, yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. Ah man, I'm like right there too because like I feel like I could go either way on it. And I think I'm going to agree with you here and take Brother Bear simply because of how much I really was invested in the opening act of Brother Bear. And I feel like the opening act of Brother Bear outweighs anything from Bruce Almighty.
Yeah, because like Bruce Almighty's just stupid.
Yeah.
Like it's like,
Yeah.
and it's meant to be, you know.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And like I
It's
still
like I
like
can't really like. I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad thing or it makes it a bad movie. It's just like I prefer
different
movies that are more
intentions.
like the beginning of Brother Bear than Bruce Almighty.
Exactly. All right. Yeah. All right. And you won me over there. I'm going to agree with you on that one. So for our next one, do we take Brother Bear or X-Men?
Uh, oh man, that's tough. Oh man.
I
I
know,
gotta
right?
take Brother Bear.
Yeah. I feel like
I can't in my right mind take X-Men because I'm just picturing like the lame finale of X-Men compared to superhero movies today. It just like it really like sucks the wind out of the whole movie for me.
but also even like still going off of, what we're saying from Brother Bear, like I'm comparing the endings of both of those movies. And if you put like Brother Bear still outshines.
Yeah, yeah, because like the the ending of X-Men is like kind of lame,
It's
except for
very
that whole
deflating.
Statue of Liberty fight, which is like very short and like also doesn't look really good anymore. So
Yeah, it's very deflating. Whereas at least Brother Bear recaptures my soul and takes me on that journey at the end.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
we,
I'm gonna
we
agree.
you chose to be a bear. That was like such a G move, and I really didn't see that coming. I probably should have, but
Just
like now the
goes to
next
show
one
that
came close
even
to
this
that.
deep into your film watching career, you can still be surprised
Yeah.
by Brother Bear. All right. So then we got one last movie. Will it rise to the top of the charts, or will this be the spot that it lands at? Do we take Brother Bear or Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines?
Oh man, dude, how am I supposed to take Terminator 3? Like, how am I supposed to take Terminator 3? I take Brother Bear, yeah.
I think this is where we're gonna have to go to an impasse, Jim, because I'm gonna take Terminator 3.
Yeah. I mean, all right, if you think the guy who played John Connor in that movie is better than Joaquin Phoenix, I guess so.
Uh, I don't, but if I had to, I'd
I
much
mean, I'm
rather
pretty sure that's what you just
watch
said. I don't
the
know.
yeah, yeah.
That's what I heard.
But no, I think back to the vehicular carnage and pure insanity of Terminator 3, and that just speaks to me more.
Yeah,
That
that's fair. It did have
bungled
some of those
middle
really. It did hit some pretty great action sequences.
is
So
for me. Yeah, and action sequences that didn't deflate me like X-Men. So yeah, so all right. So Brother Bear sandwiches right in with Terminator 3. I think that's a fair spot for it. So sandwiches right in with Terminator 3, but it's ahead of X-Men. And I think that is a worthy spot to be in. For a movie that I honestly was dreading having to come back to. I was thinking the entire time we were going to watch Brother Bear, I was like, there's a reason why I've never gone back to this. Like, there's no way this is going to hold up. And surprisingly, for 2/3 of this movie, I was pretty invested. So ended up being a pretty good watch. Well, we're not taking a guess because you already guessed it. We're watching Elf next week.
yeah,
We coincided that pretty well. We planned for that to happen, for us to watch
yeah,
Elf right around
definitely
Christmas
not
time.
just
That was,
blind luck.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We definitely formulated that months in advance. But yeah, we're gonna dive into Elf. It's gonna be a good time. That's a classic, I think. Is Elf in your yearly Christmas viewing? Do you have a yearly Christmas viewing? Do you really dig on doing that?
Nah, not as much anymore. It's like an elf is kind of like a tweener where I understand it's become a holiday classic, but like for me, it's just another Will Ferrell movie. It never quite became like a total holiday classic for me. So it's weird to me that it's up there in the pantheon of holiday movies now.
For
Because
a lot of
it's
people.
got to be like near the top, right?
Well, yeah, it's huge for a lot of people. I mean, it spawned a musical. It's.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is I saw the musical, but I saw the musical done by like a community theater in Salt Lake City, and it was
Oh.
like one of the worst nights of my life. It was so horrible.
Yeah, that'll do it. That would turn any man off from.
I think that put a pretty bad taste in my mouth for Elf. So it's
Yeah,
like,
I thankfully have never had to been subjugated to the Broadway play of Elf, but I've also never really been enamored with Elf in the way that so many from our generation and beyond have been. So I think this will be an interesting one for us to dive into since we don't have that connection to it that I feel like so many people do have. Because
yeah,
I don't watch this yearly either. I can't remember the last time that I watched Elf. I
yeah.
feel
I
like
mean,
it
I've
had to have been
seen it a bunch
recently,
of
but
times though.
yeah, I've seen it a lot, but I don't. I feel like anytime I've ever actually watched it, it's always ever been whenever like a girlfriend or like a significant other has ever wanted to watch it. I've never been
Yeah,
like by myself and been like, dude,
like
you know what I can watch right now? Elf.
yeah, right. How do you think a man finds himself in a community theater watching a local production of Elf exactly if it's not that?
You mean you're not just strolling the community theater game looking for
Yeah,
sweet new titles to watch?
right.
Oh, that's too good. Do you have any recommendations to leave the people with? What have you been jamming on? Catch anything good recently?
I have a couple. First, I saw Y2K in theaters, which was
Oh,
just absolutely tremendous. Just
yes.
dripping with nostalgia.
I also went and saw that as well. A very entertaining movie, especially for people that grew up in that era. Um, a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was weird, like just seeing people talk on AIM, like AOL Instant Messenger
Yeah,
was like, wow, remember when people used to do that? That's so wild.
so good. Yeah, I
But yeah,
laughed a
like
lot at it.
hundreds of references, never takes itself too seriously, like lots of funny things going on.
Any movie that also appreciates Limp Bizkit the way I do, I am fully on board with you.
Yeah, and it's like, how could you make a movie set in 1999 and not bring up Limp Bizkit? So I don't want to give too much away though. And then my other one is it's a Netflix show.
Oh, here we go.
It's it's called Extraordinary Attorney Woo. It's,
What?
it's like I've seen two episodes so far, and it's like another like pretty wild show because it's like a Korean drama,
Okay.
and it feels like it could be like a network TV show in the US. Like it's that kind of vibe.
Uh,
Um, but the plot is that it stars like this genius attorney who's autistic, and she's like very autistic. Like she's got all kinds of weird tics, and she's always like telling people about like whale facts, and like, but somehow she always cracks the case. Like,
that's such like a specific genre too that you see so much on screen, and it always cracks me up. Like I'm always like, yeah, I'm in for that. I could watch that.
yeah, I mean they had
Like
that
they do
show
it with
on.
doctor shows all the time
Yeah,
now,
The
I
Good
feel like. Yeah,
Doctor
the
is
good
like literally the
doctor.
same thing, but with
Yeah,
doctors. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, amazing. I'll have to check that out. I'll put it add it on the list, Jim.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, if you watch, even if you just watch one episode, it's worth it.
Put it on the board. Especially you had me at Korean cinema, so I'm in on that.
Yeah, because it's weird. It's like a network TV show, but with all these like small Korean quirks. Like whenever she cracks the case, she looks like she's like getting like a wind machine blown into her hair, and it's like a close up of her face with her like hair
So
blowing back. It's so wild. It's,
it's great. Yep. Yeah. I'll add that to the ever growing list of TV shows that I never end up watching, but I promise that I will one day.
yeah, one day we'll talk about
One
Extraordinary
one
Attorney.
day.
What about you? What do you got? Anything new?
Not so nothing really relatively new, because I've mostly been reading the last few days, but I did rewatch an old classic for me. One of my favorite, dad movies around, which is Ford v Ferrari.
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, love that movie. Absolute classic. It's one of those movies I can always turn on when I want something on in the background or when I just need to remember how much I fucking love Christian Bale. And if you haven't watched Ford v Ferrari out there, you got to get your life in order and watch it because it's great.
It's a really classic
Yeah,
movie.
it's absolute classic. Yeah. and I love it.
Much better than like the last 20 or so movies we've done on this show.
Yeah, that's for sure. We are definitely been in a zone lately. But we're about to break it soon, Jim. Don't worry. You know, the Lord of the Rings is
You
around
know
the
what I was
block.
thinking today?
Cat in the Hat's right around the block. We're getting into some good stuff.
You know what I was thinking today before we were recording this?
What were you thinking?
I was like, man, I don't think we gave Planet of the Apes enough credit. Like it's way better than it's like way better than most of the movies we've done on this show.
Than a lot of the stuff we've been suffering through lately. But we're getting out of there, and we're almost about to enter a new era on this podcast where we're finally going to get to the era where you and me and all of our friends would go to the movies every week.
Yeah.
And it's going to be very interesting as we start to go on a week to week basis instead of
Which
jumping all
means
around.
what that really means is I know that Planet of the Apes is probably gonna stay near the top for a while.
It's got a little bit longer to enjoy its placing, so enjoy it while you can. But the Cat in the Hat's coming for you. An absolute classic right there. But be sure to join with us back next week when we dive into the holiday classic that is Elf, and we will see you next week. And as always, we'll see you at the movies.